Looks like you've been missing a lot of work lately.
I wouldn't say I've been missing it, Bob.
What would you say you do here?
God damn it. Bob, we love playing here tonight. My brother's ready.
It helps if you think of it as a game, Bob. Every game has a winner and a loser.
You must possess strength to inflict pain, Bob.
Welcome once again to the Two Bob's Cast. I am Mr. H. I am here with my friend and colleague, Mr. Hurd. The Hurd he is today. How are you doing, Mr. Hurd?
Excellent. Doing good there,
Hurd,
sir.
or just Hurd?
Whichever, it's all, I will answer to all these things. So the Hurd. I'm doing good, partner.
It's like Colin Cowherd. Just don't call me Colin Cowherd. Or Michelle Hurd, I guess. You related to Michelle Hurd?
Who's that?
She was on Law and Order. She's got all skinny, she's got curly hair.
I don't think so. The one I always used to get was
It's spelled the same. But...
Gail Ann Hurd, who does a lot of those action movies. She's like movie producer. She did a lot of the James Cameron action movies, Aliens and Terminators and those types.
Nice.
So,
nice. Yeah. I have heard that name too.
Yeah.
And seen it in credits here and there. So that's interesting. Anyway, episode 23. We're on the letter N. Why don't you tell us who we're going for, who we're going to talk about today?
So surprisingly, what we found going through these bands, N is a really tough letter.
Yeah, way harder than
there's really not a lot of N's going on. So we just kind of settled on we were due for a newer band. So I had seen a few times recently the band Nothing More. So figured we would kind of dig into them. They have 5 albums. It's kind of a smaller band. I guess they're getting a little bit more popular now.
Meets our criteria, though. You know,
yeah, it definitely fits. So we dug into Nothing More. So Nothing More, American rock band. They're from San Antonio, Texas. They actually were formed in 2003, which it seems like a while ago. They didn't really do a whole lot for a while. They toured basically behind, independent records. They were having a hard time keeping a lineup together. It was formed. The main guy, Johnny Hawkins, who is now the front man, actually started out being their drummer. And did vocals on the records, but he joined guitarist Mark Vellalunga and Daniel Oliver on bass, which were the main 3 that started. They went through many members, whether trying to do singers, trying to do drummers, and finally they settled on that Johnny Hawkins wanted to be the front man. So he's the guy that's been there now on all their major label records.
I just found out today that he was a drummer at first. So as the youngsters say, I was today years old when I found that out. I never knew that.
Yeah, he's he does a lot of like percussion on the albums and things like that.
Oh, okay. So live, he still does some on there.
Okay. Yeah, he does. It's kind of like a Godsmack type thing.
Okay,
if you're familiar with them live, where what is
drum battles?
Yeah, the Thomas Las Patillas or whatever he calls them, where they Shannon Larkin and they just anyway they do the kind of the same type of thing. One cool thing,
the Ugly Kid Joe drummer, right?
Yes, exactly.
Shannon Larkin. As soon as I got him in the band, I'm like, that guy's from Ugly Kid Joe.
Yeah. The first time I saw them, and I know we're jumping from Nothing More Godsmack, but the first time I seen them with their new drummer, man, Larkin, that guy's like got the longest arms and legs. Like playing.
His drums are really flat and they're really low, so you can see him like from his belly button up. It almost looks funny. Yeah. He to me, he almost looks like that the monkey the monkey with the two drums, the wind up one, or it had the battery or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, because he sits so high, it almost looks weird.
Yeah, it looks like he looks like he's got like 4 to 8 legs, like he's a spider back there, like swinging around, and
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's
I
cool
was
to be able to watch him play though, because a lot of drummers like we're gonna see on Friday, Nico, you can't even see him. Like,
Yeah.
there's just so many drums, you can't even see what he's doing back there.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So anyway, nothing more.
I
So
didn't know he was a drummer.
yeah, I guess Johnny and Mark met at church camp.
Okay.
Drummer and guitar player. They became best friends, and of course they jammed together. And 2000, I think, or so they met. So they knew each other a couple years. They were really young. They're a pretty young band, I would say. Only 5 records so far. But yeah, so they started making demos and all that, and they toured a lot in the San Antonio and Texas area. I was telling you a little bit earlier, right before these guys got, I don't want to say big, but before they started getting noticed, had a coworker who was telling me about these guys. And of course I didn't know who they were, and was playing me some of this first record we're going to talk about here in a little bit, and was like, okay, I mean, I could see something where it could be a little bit different, and could see how they could break out. So, basically, that's pretty much it when we get to their history. Not a whole lot, because they're not real well known. Not a whole lot of people know who they are, but which leads us to 2009, their first album being released, The Few Not Fleeting, which is considered, I guess, to fans, like the people that, I guess, maybe how you look at like Mushroom Head, where while to us, their first 3 records were, their self-titled Super Buick, M3. They put like all the greatest hits from those and put it on their main label debut. What was that one called? I can't think. What's it?
Double X.
Double X. Yeah. So they put like basically their greatest hits for like their major label debut. So it's kind of like this, where a lot of these songs on their first record were things off of their first couple, or things that they'd written over the last few years. So we got A Few Not Fleeting. It doesn't really give a whole lot of information as far as production and things like that.
Yeah.
I assume it's the band that did it. At this point, they're considered even prog rock. I don't really ever hear too much of that in here. But we get this release February 21st, 2009. It's considered their debut album to most fans, because it's the first one that kind of got them out there. So this album for me, it's a little bit. Johnny Hawkins does do drums on this, so it's a 3-piece at this moment.
Oh,
but after this, they get to their 4 that they're still with today. So I feel like this was kind of the last moment where Johnny Hawkins was like, I'm going to do both. And then he was like, I'm just going to do vocals from now on. So additional musician just with guitars, but Johnny did all the lead vocals and all the drums. Mark, the guitar player, and Daniel, the bass player, still to this day, they all do backing vocals. It actually harmonizes pretty good. They do a pretty good job of that. But we get The Few Not Fleeting. We get 12 tracks. And, this one's kind of rough for me. I didn't really get into these guys until about the next record. So I honestly kind of just went back and listened to this recently. Didn't really hear too much of it. They don't play any of it live. It's not really anything that, and I've seen them, I think I told you 4 or 5 times, and I've never heard any of these songs live. I don't know. They just never really.
It's a shame.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's okay. To me, it's a rougher album. It's less polished than what they end up doing later on. Pretty good. My favorites on this album, I like Gone, I like The Cleansing, I like Blue and Gold, and I like the song Love. I don't really have any skippers. Some of the ones toward the end, to me, just Fell in Love with a Ghost, the title track, Bullets and Blue Eyes, not super interesting to me. I feel like this is one of those deals where it's a little bit raw, a little bit rough for me. Anyway, this one for me is my least favorite. I really like the direction that they go after this, but The Few Not Fleeting to me is the easy 5 out of 5. I give it probably a C minus. It's not bad, but to me, it doesn't really do a whole lot. Mr. H, what do you think about The Few Not Fleeting?
My experience with this band is I first heard songs off of their second album, the self-titled album, and I really liked them. I was like, wow, that's really good. So I was going backwards to listen to this one. Before I say a whole lot, this is not one of my favorite bands. Like I liked them a lot for a minute. It was kind of reaffirmed for me by listening to all 5 of these albums too, that I feel like there's something missing about them or something I don't get. Like there's a disconnect for me with this band. I don't know. So much of it sounds the same to me. It's fine to play in the background, but it doesn't really grab my attention. Like I don't know. I feel like there's something I just don't get in there. But I don't know. It's not bad though. It's not like I don't hate it, but it's just I don't know. There's spots in here. I'll get into more detail about that later. But anyway, The Few Not Fleeting. So I had to go back and listen to this one. Well, just this week, that first song, Gone, I wrote in here right away. I'm like, that is a great song.
Yep.
That's a great song. And it's sad that they don't play any of this live. I liked Waiting on the Rain, and I like Bullets and Blue Eyes. To me, that one's got a lot of melody. It sticks in my head. Like that's to me, that kind of sounds like what I liked from the band the rest of the way was that song.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like Blue and Gold. I didn't like Salem. I didn't like Fell in Love with a Ghost. Like those, they kind of sounded like what I don't like about this band. Like they get a little overproduced for me, and I'll touch on that a few times too as we go through this, but not so much on this album. I like this album because there are songs on here where there's only the 3 that I would skip. There's 12 songs. So most of it I can listen to and I kind of like it. So I just mentioned the 3 as my favorite songs, but I like a lot of this album.
Nice.
Even Fat Kid, I was like, I don't even know if I want to like this song, but it actually isn't bad. And it's, it's about how's that for a fat kid? Like, I'll show you, like I can do this, kind of thing, so it's a little kind of uplifting, but even that one, I'm like, it sounds like that's going to be corny, but that's not a bad song either. So I feel like this album sounds pretty good. Like you were saying that there isn't much about the production and you weren't sure it was Vestia Entertainment.
Yeah,
like, I have never heard of that, but this album actually, I was surprised. It sounded pretty good. Now I went back and listened to this a little bit, but I really liked the next album, and I listened to it so much that it got into like I stopped listening to it, and then I went back looking for this one, and I kind of liked it, but I was into some other things at the time. But going back now, I like it more than I thought I did then. So this one's right in the middle of the road for me for them. This is number 3. I have this as a B minus. This is just mid tier, but sometimes there's just too much going on for me, and that's in the songs that I mentioned. But there are a few songs that I really like here. So yeah, I don't want to sound like a hater of these guys because I don't hate them, but I just wanted to make sure that I don't there's some things about them that I definitely don't like, but I don't hate them. So but that's how I felt about the first album. So, and I liked it more than I thought I would, actually.
Excellent.
Can't say that about all of it.
Yeah.
But we'll get to
that. To me, it's an upward trend. I get what you're saying for sure. So their second album, which is when I really got into them.
Same.
Sounds like you too. Yeah. So
very much.
Self-titled, Nothing
My buddy
More.
makes fun of me now still. He's like, hey, your band's coming. I'm like, dude, I like the one album, but I wouldn't shut up about it. I had a screensaver at work, wallpaper, Nothing More with and why did they change that too? Like, I didn't know that they had the Nothing More with, it was like a lowercase m, but the N part of the M was darker. Well, now they have these like 2 mountains, there's like right behind Bob there.
Yep.
Now it looks like that. I don't know why they changed it, but I do kind of like the logo. And I had that same wallpaper that's behind your head on my computer at work.
Nice.
And he'd make fun of me all the time because I couldn't get enough of it. So
yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, I'm with you. So self-titled album released June 24th, 2014. This was produced by the band as well as a Will Hoffman. Don't really know who that is.
Yeah, I don't either.
But this was considered their fourth studio album / second. We'll just go from now on our order. So their second studio album. After this was released, I guess it's a prominent independent rock label. They're called 7 Music. They signed with them here. Again, I had never heard of it, but I guess it's more of a rock independent thing. So, good for them, because this is when they started getting noticed. I remember started hearing their song "This Is the Time" right about now. Radio got it. It's definitely the first I ever heard of them. Other than the guy that was like, "Oh, nothing more," and then when I heard it, I was like, "That's that band he's talking about."
Yeah.
They're getting bigger now.
That's
so,
the one that hooked me too. I was like, "What is this?
Yeah.
What is this?"
Yep. So subject matters. Gets a lot more personal. This guy has a lot of demons that he kind of makes his stuff, his things that he talks about pretty interesting. As you go through more with this album, he has religious. Obviously, he met his guitar player at church school, so going through religion, corporations, mental illness, capitalism, even drug use. The song about his sister being on drugs, and his mother was passing away and trying to get her clean. So we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But this was an excellent album. I remember, same as you, I heard the first song. I don't know why I ended up buying the whole thing. Probably a mix of that song plus.
I'm sure I downloaded it somewhere.
Yeah, I had. Well, yeah. Actually, this is the time when
I
was.
see what you did there.
I was downloading, like I liked supporting the bands with digital copies on Amazon. I remember I still have this on my phone saved under my Amazon Music, and I do Spotify now, so it still sits there, and I'll pull it up once in a while. But
I did buy it. I have this physical CD, upstairs. But
I definitely do not.
But and I would, I do that with with bands that I really like their stuff. So this is one. I don't have any of their other ones on CD, but I think this was already during Spotify time, right? I think this was only 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I have a question. Why did it take them 5 years?
I don't know.
To come out with this second album.
Well, I think it just has to do with
that's a long
the
time.
The
5.5 years almost.
Yeah, I mean, you'll note they do.
It's like, what are they, Metallica?
Well, they do take a while to do albums.
There's another, I think, 5 year stretch in here. I'm like, wow.
Yeah,
that's surprising for especially a band starting out. We were talking about Five Finger Death Punch earlier. Like they put out 3 albums in 4 years, like right away.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's just weird that I'm like 5 years. Like I didn't even realize that Few Not Fleeting came out that much more before this, because to me, it sounds pretty good. It's not on par. This album sounds great.
Yep.
It's not on par with this one, but it sounds really good. So I thought they were just a couple years apart, but I'm like, whoa, 5 years plus. I didn't know if there was a reason for that. The drugs or something that might have happened. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think now the singer ends up with drama later on, but
okay. So that wasn't like in between.
Nothing during this time that I know of. So but yeah, this is an excellent album. This one is longer. I remember being kind of daunted by it when I first got it. It was it's 15 tracks. And I think all of them are real tracks except the first one. The first one is an intro, but everything else is a song. Later on, that gets a little bit different, and I know you kind of touched on this. They do a lot of spoken word and stuff between their songs, of which we talked about this. I don't think there's any rhyme or reason to it. I don't think there's a story.
Okay.
I don't think there's anything they're trying to say. It's just these are like speeches, like things that they like, things that they'll put in the middle of their songs or intros of songs, just things that they like. I guess the singer's very philosophical. He likes those like leaders giving speeches, and like you'll hear that stuff throughout their
songs. I don't know what they are, but there is a lot of them. But there's 2 on here. There's Geyer and Pyre. Those 2 are instrumentals. They're somehow related. They're not. There's no singing in them, and I think there might even be an audio clip in one of them.
I think in Geyer,
that was like that's kind of where it started for them. Like, there's none of those on the Few Not Fleeting.
Yeah,
So
Yep.
I was like, okay, but I'm like, all right, well, they put these two, maybe they're related somehow, and they have one kind of in the middle of the album and one at the end. So I don't know. But
Yeah.
then it just becomes a lot more of a theme later, and I just don't understand it. I don't
Right.
quite get it. But anyhow,
So
um,
so anyway, this is a great album.
what'd you like about this one?
This one, I just think the songs are catchy as hell. I
Yeah,
think,
they are, man.
and
They
and
so
and
are.
I feel like this way going forward with the band. I feel like this guy's voice just has something to it that, like, his hooks get his hooks in me. Like, I love singing, like, to these songs, like the big fat choruses, and
Mm,
my wife even really got into these guys too when we saw them at Louder Than Life together, for Spirits, and she loved it. She's like, yeah, it's a great live show. But I love the singer's voice. I don't think there's a whole lot into the band itself that really catches me. I do like his voice though. I do like his energy on stage. I do like he's got all that hair flopping around. He does like chest paint and face paint, and
always takes his shirt off. You gotta like
yeah,
that, all the
and bare
muscles he
feet.
has, and bare feet. I'm sure you
Yep,
like all that too, right?
exactly. That's my thing. So
That's
so favorites on this,
at some point, I'm like, would this dude put a shirt on already for once? Like every time I see this guy, he's got his shirt
Yeah,
off.
you're making me look bad over here, dude. Come
I
on,
mean,
chill out.
it's not hard to do, but I
Yeah,
mean, come on, man.
yeah. Songs I like, man. I could list a lot of these. This is phenomenal. This is the time. Obviously, always close with this. Still,
I saw that.
it's their song. It got them on the map. It's their
Yeah.
most popular song. They're always probably going to close with it. I
Mhm.
think it's great. Uh, I like Christ Copyright is really really good. I like First Punch is good, man. It's just so many great songs. I'll Be
Yeah.
Okay is phenomenal. Here's to the Heartache, phenomenal. They have a bunch of songs that just really cut deep, real emotional songs. They have a few on every album, but Here's to the Heartache is just, awesome. Jenny, they play that all the time. It's one of their most popular
Yeah.
songs as
I was
well.
gonna say that one's got to be up there too.
Yeah, Jenny is his sister, Johnny's sister.
Okay.
While his mom was dying, basically she was strung out on drugs. You can listen to the lyrics of the song. It tells you the story. She stuck around for you. Like, like the mom was dying. She's like, I'm going to try to live to see you turn it around. And it's basically Johnny just calling out a sister being like, come on, get your shit together. Like,
Yeah.
dying. She needs you. So
Mm.
emotional stuff, but
Yeah.
it's great. It's phenomenal. I don't have any skippers on here at all. I can put this album on and I can just let it play front to back, and I have no problem with it. It didn't leave my car for a long time. I just played it over and over and over. Uh, so yeah, this is my favorite Nothing More album. This is easy one. I like a lot of what they've done after this, but nothing yet touches it in the entirety of this album.
Nothing more comes ahead of this.
Nothing more comes ahead of this.
I was like, how many times can I fit nothing more in this
Yeah.
podcast?
So yeah, no, this is a one out of 5, and this is I would say A minus. I kind of wash back and forth on this, B plus to an A minus, but this is their best stuff, and it sounds really good still to this day.
Oh, it sounds great.
Really, really like it. So sounds like you like this one a lot too. What did you think of the self-titled?
Yeah, I really really do like this album. This is it's not overproduced, which the next 3 albums
Yeah,
for the most part they all are. This one is not. Um, I would not skip anything on this album except for Geyer and Pyre because Pyre is 10 minutes, Geyer's 3. I mean, that's 13 minutes of this album that don't really need to be there. They don't really add to anything, in here. There's not like a tremendous solo in there, or there's just it's a lot of atmosphere, and there's some playing, but there's some instrumental playing, but there's nothing that's really stands out in there. It's just like, what, I don't know. It's just there. But outside of those, the actual regular songs. Now, I would like to know who Paco Estrada and Will Hoffman. Will Hoffman, you said, was a producer. He is co-writing credits on like half of these songs.
yeah.
And
The other
Paco
guy,
Estrada too. I'm like, who is Paco Estrada?
yeah,
not
he's
in
a
the
friend.
band.
He's a friend of the band. He actually
Okay.
does backup vocals on the
Okay.
album, and early on he helped write some of the songs
Okay.
on there. So
Okay. Well, anyway, they did a great job. I have 7 songs as my favorites on here because I couldn't narrow it down any more
Yeah.
than that. Really 8 if you count Ocean, which is Ocean Floor, which is it's kind of like it's only a minute, but it's right before This Is the Time. But just all together it works because it goes right into This Is the Time. Like the end of the Ocean is kind of the beginning of the next song. So they actually just fit right together. So I kind of have both of them as a favorite in there. But then Mr. MTV I liked a lot. It's just so catchy. Like you said,
Mhm.
there's a lot of hooks in the choruses that really, really catch me. And I find myself singing these songs days later. First Punch, I liked a lot. You mentioned the Matthew Effect. There's a lot of mentions of Jesus. There's
Yes.
Christ copyright. The Matthew Effect, he talks about, you're not Jesus Christ or whatever. So
Yep.
there's there's quite a few mentions of that in here. So it actually makes sense. I didn't know, that they met in church and all that. So I didn't realize that I should have put that together, that there is some religious connection here, but
Yep.
I just didn't, because they're not really listed. Like you said, it's progressive. They're not listed as you know, some kind of Christian band like Striper or something. They don't just
Right.
put it
Right.
out
Right.
there like that. But there is a lot of religion involved here. A lot of songs about love and loneliness, and actually a few too many. I kind of wish they would write about some other things, but that's more later on. That's not this album. That's more later on.
Yeah.
This album, I just feel like they get later on. They get a lot of repetitive. There's a lot of just the same stuff. But not here. Like these songs are really catchy. I like Jenny. I like If I Were. I like Here's to the Heartache. You said that's a great song. I mean, there's some really, really good stuff here. And they do still play. I want to say when you guys just saw them at the Agora here, they played 4 off of this album or 3. There was at least 3, but I think there was 4 off of
Yeah.
here.
All they play is they consider those first 2 songs 2 songs.
Okay.
The Ocean Floor and This Is the Time. Those 2, and then Jenny. Those are really
Okay.
the only ones I've seen live since 2014 when I saw them.
Okay.
They haven't really
That's a
played a
shame.
whole lot. Yeah.
That's a shame
It
they
is.
don't play more. And it's a shame they don't play at least a couple off the first one. Like,
Yep.
I mean, even bands that didn't, even Chevelle, like the first album sounds like crap. Like we kind of bashed the thing. They still play a song off of that.
Yeah, they do.
So I can't believe this band just ignores it. And they only have 5 albums. It's not like they're, like I said, Metallica joking around. It's not like they got, 13 albums or something. They have all this material. Of course, you're going to have to skip some stuff, but
Yeah.
it's just weird that they don't play more of this stuff. But some bands, they want to push their new stuff. But anyway, I had this as an A-. This is number 1 for me without a doubt. It's very easy. This is really upper tier stuff for me. For any band, I really, really like this album. Like I said, my buddy would make fun of me because he didn't really like them, and I couldn't get enough of this album. So, like you said, though, they only came here and opened in like Youngstown, but I don't ever remember them coming here
Yeah.
to Cleveland. I think maybe they did once, and I missed them, and that was it. Like then, the next album came out, even though that was still another few years later, and I just never got a chance to see him. So I still haven't. I'm going to see him open for Disturbed here in Cleveland on March 31st, but that'll be the first time for me. So, it's not because I saw it live and it, meant anything to me more than I just love this album. It's really just that good. It's that good an album. If you haven't heard these guys, start with this one and then go from there. You might like the rest of the stuff you hear, you might not, but if you like this one, it's really good. You're going to like the whole thing.
Yeah.
So it's too damn long though, like you said. Like we start getting into some length problems, I think. But that's why I feel like Geyer and Pyre, like, do those really need to be on here? I don't know. It's almost like maybe put an EP out, put out a couple new songs, and throw those on there, or throw one of them on there, just as another track.
Yep.
Like it's just there would have already been 13 songs on here, and it would have already been, I don't even know how long.
Yep.
50 minutes, 45 minutes, about 50 minutes, 49 minutes without those 2 songs. So just, I don't know. But
I've always said 40,
they're interesting choices, but they're not my choices to make, right? So
No.
all I can do is comment on them, like, so.
Gotcha.
But anyway, love that album. Number 1 for me, easy.
All right. Third album by Nothing More, released on September 15th, 2017. So 3 years later after the self-titled, we get The Stories We Tell Ourselves. This one was also released on that independent rock 11/7 music.
Okay.
So they stuck with them for a little bit. This was still produced by that Will Hoffman. Uh, so when they started working on this album, Johnny Hawkins said that he felt that the technology had advanced finally enough to create a professional sounding album with their own home equipment. And this allowed them to work outside of the time and money constraints of working in a professional studio. So to me, that sounds like that was the problem early on. It seemed like maybe they just didn't have enough income, didn't have enough ways to put it together. Maybe they were just buying studio time when they could.
I feel like, in my opinion, it worked better because they couldn't put all this electronic crap in here. So
yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe.
I mean,
that's your
anyway,
opinion.
I know, and I'll
But
get to it.
yeah,
I just
all
got to
good.
throw
It's
it
all
in there
good.
because that does, when you have more money or you're able to kind of you use technology, say it's going to sound more electronic. You're going to put stuff in there and be like, hey, that sounds cool. Let's put that in there.
Yeah,
Where really I feel like they way overdid it in some cases with some of that stuff. Like they didn't need to do that is the
yeah.
point. They're good enough players.
Yep.
They don't need to oversaturate it with all this other sound. Like you don't
Yeah.
need to do that.
Well,
A little bit's fine, but it's really easy to go too far with that.
yeah, they
So that
seem to
kind of
love
makes a
it
lot of
though.
sense what you
Yeah.
said. They do. They absolutely do love it. I totally agree with that.
Yeah. So conceptually, this album is more about, I guess, the interactivity of three types of relationships. So again, you can tell he gets really philosophical with the stuff. He's the relationship between oneself, another person, and society. So these type of things. Basically, Hawkins becomes the primary lyricist at this point. They do get a full-time drummer at this point, Ben Anderson. These are the four that are on every album going forward now.
Okay.
Basically,
Hoffman is co-writing credits on I think every song
yes.
but one too.
Yep. And there's 18 songs on this, but it's a
Yeah.
little deceiving
It is
because
yeah.
every other song is a parenthesis song, which is some kind of speech. They do have things in here from what are the names I saw in this? From Carl Jung to C.S. Lewis. Just different philosophers. Alan Watts, he likes just different speeches and sayings that he
There's
likes to
7
throw.
tracks out of the 18 that
Yep.
are basically these slash songs.
Yeah,
that are-
and I definitely when I
basically
first,
instrumentals with spoken word. I think
Yes.
there are some lyrics actually on the last one,
yeah.
but not many.
So this one this definitely was a downtick for me when I listened to this, but I thought the songs were really good. I really think on this album more than any other one, it really is weighed down by all the breaks in between the songs. At least later
Amen.
on, the next album will have things more in the middle of the songs, which okay, like to me, I still don't love it, but it's better than this. This one, if you just cut track 1, 3, 8, 11, 14, 17,
Yeah.
you have 11, I think, really good songs on this album. I really like some of the
And
main...
those songs don't add anything to
nothing.
these other songs either. They're not intros. It's not the ocean floor, which leads literally musically even right into the next song. There's none of that here.
Yep.
It's just a weird track that you're like, hey, what is this? Did I hit the button on the radio? Did I turn on the wrong thing real quick? Like, what is this?
Yep.
Because it's not them playing. It's just this, atmosphere track with spoken word. And you're like, what? Did I turn it to Fox News? Like, I don't understand what happened here.
Yep. So a lot of good stuff here. When you cut through the fat and you actually get to the music, do you really want it as good? I think Let 'Em Burn is phenomenal, especially a live song. They play it every time I think I've seen them. They've played it. I
didn't care for that one. I don't really know why. I just something about it I didn't like.
Yeah, I didn't like it until I saw them live.
Okay.
It just
Yeah,
to
that
me,
makes sense.
I think this is a live band, and I think this kind of comes true with. We've talked about this before with other bands. Like some bands, just once you listen to the music, like the newer songs, the newer albums, you hear them live, you like them better. This is the case with this band. I've seen them for every album, I think at least once, and hearing these songs live is really really cool. Let 'Em Burn is that's one I just talked about. Don't Stop, I think, is phenomenal. That one has a guest by Papa Roach singer Jacoby Shaddix.
Toby Shaddix.
Yeah, he does
Toby Dick.
the breakdown apart. That's awesome. Go to War was the first single off of this. I think it's really cool. I remember this was the first song my wife really got into because of the groove that this gets into. It's real, just it's real funky. Like it's just the groove that it's the beat is. And then my other favorite of this is the closer, which very, very emotional. Like this is a song that he wrote about his dad and not him. I'm sorry. The guitarist wrote it about his dad. It's just a father song, a father son song, real emotional. It's you watch the video. Good luck with keeping a dry eye. It's emotional stuff. I don't really have any skippers, but yet at the same time I have a lot of skippers because,
Yeah,
like I mentioned
makes
before,
sense.
like I'm good with cutting all of those intros. I'm
Yeah.
with you. I don't get it. I like it. It kind of works with these intros live. It kind of gives them a second to tune their guitar and whatever, and you have something going on in the background. But on the album, it doesn't do it for me. The songs though that I like are really, really good. This is right in the middle for me. This one is my third favorite album. This one is about a B minus. I think when it hits, it really hits. Just real inflated by all that extra stuff that doesn't really need to be there. The only other note I have here is Clint Lowry.
Yes, sir.
Seven Dust, obviously, Dark New Day is on this record. He actually plays guitar on Funny Little Creatures and Tunnels and has a writing credit on both of those songs. So thought that was really, really cool. Good album.
Love the Lowry brothers, Clint and Corey. They're both phenomenal.
Yep.
Great musicians, great stage energy, great songwriters, both of them.
They're both underrated
really
vocalists
good.
too.
Yes.
They do. When Seven Dust did not have Clint, there was a big hit with the background vocals. They had Sonny Mayo. The guitar playing was still cool, but
it was.
There was a hole where the vocals were left. But anyway, what did you think of the stories the stories we tell ourselves?
The story I told myself here was I like this album. There's some tracks I really like. I tried to come up with every reason I could why these intro songs were on here. I even wrote, I said, maybe it's like an outline, like Ambition Destruction leads like to the next song is Do You Really Want It? And then Convict Divide is like Let 'Em Burn, Ripping Me Apart, Don't Stop. I was trying to fit these songs into like what those words were saying, like React, Respond, The Great Divorce and Still in Love, Alone Together, Go to War. Those are all in the The Great Divorce and Still in Love are in the React, Respond section. So I'm like, are these headings for an outline? Like, I don't know what was going on there, but apparently they're not related at all. So I was, pulling my hair out, I guess, trying to figure out what was going on here. I don't understand that. It's just filler that, like you said, it's stuff they like, and it almost borderlines on arrogance, like you create stuff because you want to put it out, and it's got to be stuff that you like, but it's like, okay, if people like your music, why is it that you're just assume that they're going to like to listen to that too?
Right.
That's the question I ask myself. Like, if I was deciding whether I want to put this on there, these 7 songs, I'd be like, okay, well, I could be like, well, it's because I want them on there, or I'm like, do the people that I'm trying to get this out to and get these messages out to, do they really want to hear that, you think? I don't know. So I feel like that sometimes it's worth asking that question, because maybe there are people that are like, yeah, the album wouldn't be the same without it, but I don't think I found anybody yet that says
nope.
That. So
count me out
weird.
of that.
Yeah, yep. It's weird. So my first thing was, why so many songs? Because I just saw 18 songs. I'm like, oh my goodness. But these songs, they're like, there's 18 seconds, 41 seconds. Some of them are a little longer. There's 229 in there, 131. So they're relatively short, but still, I'd have to skip them all, because they're not adding anything. So I did really like Do You Really Want It? That was a really good song. I like Ripping Me Apart, and I like Don't Stop a lot too. I didn't like Let It Burn. Just something about that I didn't really like. I didn't like Go to War because it was a little funky and it didn't really sound like them to me, or at least what I liked about them on the last album and the album before and this one, it just didn't sound like them. I could see why if you just really liked everything these guys did, you might like that one. But for me, it was like too much of a difference from what I liked about them. And I didn't like The Great Divorce. So I have this one as a number 2. I have this one as a B. So I like the songs that I liked. There's more good songs on this one than there are in the first one, which is why I rated this one a 2 and that one a 3, basically. So,
Right.
but I did really like the first one because there doesn't have any of this extra production stuff that's in here that I just want to skip, So I almost was like, maybe that album should be my second favorite album because I like that more straight ahead. This is us. This is what we sound like, not with all this other stuff that's not us.
Right.
We didn't record that stuff. That's just stuff we threw on here.
Yep.
And it's like, I want to hear you guys. I want to hear you guys play because he's a really good guitar player. They write some good stuff. And, I like Johnny Hawkins' voice. I just wish he'd leave a shirt on, but I like his voice a lot. So it fits. They nobody sounds like these guys. Now I'll touch on this a little bit. I feel like they influence some bands that are around now because there's a lot of this electronically overproduced stuff out there these days that are getting played on Octane and stuff. And I've mentioned some of the bands in here and I'll talk about in a little bit, but I feel like these guys have been around for 15 years. Maybe they influence some of that also. Some of this band's been around longer than some of those bands have. So, but I did like this album. The songs, in there was, like I said, there's only 3 that I really didn't like outside of those other tracks. I felt like in some places too. Now, go with me on this. See how you feel about this one. This is what it reminded me of, and I just had to jot it down. In some places, they sound like an Imagine Dragons and Chevelle mashup.
Okay.
Like it had some of the heavier elements and like the guitar playing of Chevelle, but the singing kind of sounded a little bit more like Imagine Dragons, and even to the point of like some of the lyrics would have been like something you would hear from Imagine Dragons.
Right.
So, and Ripping Me Apart is a great example of that. And I thought Funny Little Creatures was also a great example of that. So if you're listening to this album and you listen to those 2 songs, try to think of if you think that sounds like a mashup of those 2 bands. So, but it's still, it's a little too long, but just because of those tracks, like you said, and I ding them for it a little bit, but I didn't rank them lower than the first one, even though that's really what I don't like about this album. But there's some good songs here for sure. So I have this as 2.
All right. So 5 years later.
Yeah. Again, did something happen or
no?
So
in between the stories we tell ourselves, and this one, I believe,
COVID was in there too. That affected everybody. I got that.
COVID was in there, but Johnny Hawkins was married, went through a divorce during this time, and also I believe the incident where he got in trouble later on happened between these 2 albums. Where
what happened?
Him and his wife were fighting. They were both drunk. It got a little physical, and I think he pushed her out of the truck and accidentally ran her over. I believe is what they said. Yeah. So,
whoa, I did not know any of this. Is all a shock to me.
Yeah. So actually me and my wife were supposed to see them at the House of Blues for this album, and they canceled it because
for Spirits or for Stories We Tell Ourselves?
For Spirits.
Okay.
So, obviously the incidents and the divorce and all that stuff happened between this, but then like years later, the legal stuff started coming up where he had to fight it. So then, he was fighting the Me Too movement and all that stuff online with he's a wife, this and that. So I guess he ended up getting cleared of it. Yeah. I guess early on, like she didn't.
I guess all the religion just went out the window, huh?
I don't know. Anyway, so
yeah, it's you definitely don't want to be choosing sides in public about standing too hard on one side or the other, because the other side's just going to rip you up. Like it's too vicious these days.
Welcome to election day,
right? Yeah, hey, welcome to election day 2024.
Yep, we're sitting here waiting to see who becomes our next president and all that stuff.
Right. So true.
So
very apropos.
Yeah, exactly. October 14th, 2022, we get Spirits. Their fourth Is it fourth? Yeah, fourth studio album.
2022,
And
you said?
yeah, yep, 2022. This was released on. So Better Noise Music, I guess, was a rebrand of the same independent
Okay.
11-7 label group. So
I didn't know that.
they still continued to do that, go through that type of label. They still, I don't know about the next one. I can't remember, but they're sticking with this label, and it seems to have done them pretty good. They've done
Yeah,
pretty
and
decent.
they're letting them do what they want to do. Obviously, they're letting them put what they want on the albums, and so they have freedom. And like you said, the distribution and all that must be working pretty well. They must be
Yeah.
getting enough from them because they've done pretty well.
So, and yeah, they did definitely during COVID. They were talking about how they had to record the album basically remotely.
Mhm.
They took almost a year to record it fully, even after they wrote everything. Um, so yeah, it basically took a while to write it, but they finally released it, and it was a decent album. The same four people on it. They've kept the same thing. I like this album. I think it's pretty good. Where it's strong, it's strong. I think there's kind of in the middle of it, there's kind of a spot where it's like, all right. I think it starts off strong. Songs I like with Turn It Up, like with Stand in the Fire, I think is a cool song. I think Tired of Winning is the gem, I think, on this record. They play it live. They have the big thing in the middle of it. So Tired of Winning, Ships in the Night. In the middle of those two songs, it has like one of those speeches. But I really think it ends out really good with the Ships in the Night part. You don't know what love means is a good song. They have Best Times, which they re-released with Lacey Sturm from the band Flyleaf. Cool song. And my favorite song on the album by a lot is Spirits, the title track. Uh, really, really like it. They did play it live. The first time I ever heard it live was when I just saw them at the Agora here. Good stuff. My skippers on this, Don't Look Back, The Other F Word, Dream With Me, and Neverland. That's kind of where it doesn't do it for me. I feel like they started really strong, they ended really strong, and the middle was just kind of where they lost it for me. This one slots in number 4 for me. It's like a B minus, C plus. Where it hits, it hits. It's, to me, it's just not their strongest of albums, but I really do like those few songs. Spirits is phenomenal, especially hearing it live. Definitely did it for me. What did you think of Spirits by Nothing More?
Oh, well, my immediate thoughts were, why another 5 years?
Yes.
I feel like you're almost cheating your fans at some point. You know what I mean? Like you guys are pretty popular by making them keep wait 5 years. Like, you understand why Metallica can do it, because Metallica can play stadiums, right? So and
Sure.
it doesn't even matter who opens for them. So they can. That's not fair either. But they kind of can do what they want, and we've kind of known that that's what they do. They do what they want to do when they want to do it. So it doesn't. They do a lot of lip service about their fans, but they also don't put out a lot of music for their fans either. But they also, Metallica in general offer like a lot of live options. Their tickets are cheap compared to what other people are charging in stadiums and all that. So they do take care of their fans in some ways. But it's just, man, that kind of hurts, man. If you really like this band and they in 13 years they only put 4 albums out, like,
Yeah.
ouch, man, jeez. So, but this one to me is where the production overload came in. So it's not, at least the other one had tracks that I could skip, but the song sounded still at least sometimes a little more raw, where it was just the band playing a song and there wasn't all these effects, vocal distortion, all this different stuff going on, keyboard overlays. Like, there's all this stuff going on that I just wish I could strip all that off of there, because I know there's some decent stuff in here, but I'm just not hearing it because there's too much going on. It makes me just want to skip them. I'm like, this is just a noise mess,
Yep.
in some cases. I love Tired of Winning. You're right. That's my only favorite song. You said that's a gem off of here. That's the only song that I really could say is a favorite song of mine on here, which means, unfortunately, I had to choose from a lot of songs that I didn't like.
Yeah.
And those were Ships in the Night, Don't Look Back, and Dream With Me are the ones I didn't like the most. I can see why you like Spirits. Spirits, it doesn't do a whole lot for me, but it's not a terrible song. Like, it's not one that I would skip, but most of the rest of them are. I didn't like Valhalla. I didn't like. I didn't like Deja Vu. I didn't like the other F word, like you said. I didn't like. There was a lot here to choose. I didn't just want to go through and bash the whole thing because it's not terrible. Like, basically, what I felt about this one is it was way overproduced. Too much of it sounds the same because of the overproduction. Because it just sounds like there's just too much going on in a lot of these songs, and it makes them kind of sound the same. But I could leave this play in the background. I wouldn't really know where it began or not really notice where it ended, and not much here would grab my attention. But I wouldn't really turn it off and say, this is garbage. I got to listen to something else. I'd probably just let it play. So I don't hate it, but for me, it's a C-. This is the bottom of the barrel for me with them. It's just too much production. Like, there's just too much going on in these songs, man. And I don't know that, again, I keep saying it. It's not like this band needs to do that,
Right.
Like, they don't. It's not really, it doesn't need to be part of their sound at all. They have their own sound without any of that. Like, it's just a shame that they feel like they have to put all that stuff in there. And I guess that's what they like, but it's covering up their own skills, like what they're good at,
Yep.
It's covering up. Johnny Hawkins has a really good voice, but why you distort it so much in some places you can't even tell it's him? Like, why? It doesn't make sense to me. So I don't know. It just disappoints me because I know that there's another ballast in there. There's another first punch in there. Like, I know these songs are in there. I just can't find them because there's all this other stuff over top of them. So it's like I'm pulling all these blankets off trying to find the good song under there,
Yeah.
I don't know. So anyway, I have it as a C-. Like I said, I'd let it play. There's nothing on here rather than Tired of Winning that just really, really grabbed my attention. So
Yeah.
that's where I had it.
That's fair. Speaking of finding it for me, we got a new album from them this year, released on June 28th, 2024. So not a whole while ago. We've basically
And
pretty
they're out
new.
touring. You just saw them. What was 3-4 weeks ago? Or
I just saw them.
September?
I saw them twice in the same week.
Oh, that's true.
Once their own
yeah.
show and once at the festival. But so this one was produced by Drew Folk, which was the first time they've used somebody else in a while.
I don't know where you even found that because I can't even click on the album title on Wikipedia.
Oh,
so it's almost like it doesn't even exist for me. I don't know.
Yeah,
why.
Sometimes you got to do a little more research,
Right? Yeah, and that's why I figured. I'm like this. I'd like to hear because there's guests on this album that I didn't know like where they came from or how they're connected, and I wasn't doing the research, so I didn't look that hard. But it's just weird. Even now I can't click on the album. It says it's there, 2024, but it's not hyperlinked. There's nothing Wikipedia that I can find here.
Drop the ball, Wikipedia. Jeez.
Yeah, I know, right? Come on. Well, that also kind of tells me that this album's been out for 4.5 months now, and nobody's written about it on here. So maybe that means it's not very good. I don't know. It's shocking because usually when bands that are pretty popular put an album out with like the next day, there's a whole write up about everything you wanted to know about it. But
I feel like there's a dead link or something like that.
Yeah, there almost has to be. That's kind of what I thought too.
I want to say
popular for not to be out there.
I want to say I've seen their wiki page for this album before, but now, of course, now that we're doing the album, it's not there anyway.
Yeah.
So it just made
so anyway,
dig a little harder.
Good to hear what you got to say. This makes me even more interested. So
yeah, not really a whole lot to add to this because I couldn't find a whole lot, but I can tell you that it was produced by Drew Folk, who goes by the name of Wizard.
Is that Fulk?
Fulk. Yeah, he is.
I swear I've seen his name before.
You have. He produced a Disturbed album.
That's what it was. Maybe there's a David Draymond connection.
There you go. That's the David Draymond connection. So, Wizard Bold or some BLD. I don't know what the heck that means, but but anyway, so basically produced that album. I don't really have a whole lot other than that. It's another signature. I'm trying to see what else I found.
You're like, well, sometimes you got to look a little harder. Well, I found the producer's name.
I had to find the producer and the date it was released.
That's
none of that
true.
Stuff was
That's not on there either. You're right.
Yeah, so excellent album. This actually for me, this one kind of restored a little bit of faith with me with Nothing More. I do like this album an awful lot. As soon as I started, I remember the first time, it just kind of the memory of listening to this. So me and my wife took our kids to float in the river down in the Cuyahoga River down in the Cuyahoga Falls area, and I just brought music, and this had just come out, so
Okay.
I listened to the whole thing like 4 or 5 times, just rowing in a kayak on the river.
Nice.
But excellent album.
It's a good summer day though. Nothing wrong with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, for sure. And this album for me, it just, like I said before, it restored faith. I think there's a lot of strong songs on this album. I really do like House of Sand. That one features Eric from I Prevail. Oh, this song's badass. If It Doesn't Hurt, I think, is the big single off this one. The Angel song is their newest single. That one has David Draymond from Disturbed, which was weird to me. I saw Nothing More on the same day that I saw Disturbed, and they didn't do it together. But
That is weird.
But I do know it probably had to do with the weather. If you remember the hurricane I was dealing with for that festival, so probably the bus didn't get there till late or whatever it was.
Gotcha.
But they are touring together. When you see them, you
Yeah.
probably will get to hear that song with them.
Probably right. Yeah, I don't see why Dave wouldn't come out and do that with them.
They got their Emotional Free Fall. I really like that song. Blame It on the Drugs is okay. Existential Dread is pretty good. I heard all these songs live when I just seen them. And I really like the song Stuck with the Sinister. I don't know who Sinister is, but he does the backup screaming vocals in the song. So I think this is a really, really good album. It's kind of grown on me even more and more listening to it. I think it's the closest that comes to the self-titled. Still not there yet. And I think I kind of agree with you. I think they still might have that left in them because I really do like the riffs. I really like the singing. I feel like this is
when
the
you
closest.
can hear them.
Yeah, it's getting this back to the basics with them, and maybe they'll grow out of the whole speeches and the all the extra stuff that they do. But I'm real interested to what you think of these guys live when you see them. To me, that really changed everything for me. I think
I am too, and my biggest fear is that they have all this production live too. So
yeah,
my hope is that they can't possibly have all this extra production live because I mean, there's so many things could go wrong with trying to time it up and whatever. They just can't have all that stuff. So I am looking forward also to seeing what these songs sound like now that I've heard them all.
Right.
And will hear, a lot of them again before that show. I'm really curious to hear what these guys sound like because I've never seen them.
Right.
So I know I had asked you just because I was dying to know, like, is there that much production live? Like that's what I just don't like. That's what I can't get past about this band. If that's not there, if you break that wall down, then I think I could enjoy it. It still doesn't mean I'm going to listen to the albums that much because it's all piled on there. But maybe I'd go find more live clips of them playing, or maybe I would be more interested. But right now, it's just all so covered up.
Gotcha.
So,
I
am really looking forward to seeing what this experience is like live. So
yeah, I don't know. I kind of like I know you weren't able to go. Well, I had an extra ticket at the Agora. Yeah. Like to me, that's the venue to see a band like this. I think is
I don't think they're leaving that. Honestly, I really don't.
No, I don't.
They've been around for 15 years. I don't think they're going to grow out of that unless they can come out with something like their self-titled or better, where they really like they play these guys a lot on Sirius, right? But I don't hear them that much on regular radio. Like the masses aren't out there. They're not playing even mid-size. Like arenas, with one level. They're not even playing those. They're just playing like the Agora. Now I'm sure it was packed.
Yeah, it was.
But it's 1,500 people, and that's I feel like they've kind of reached their limit, at least where they're at now. Unless they put out something better, that's where they're going to be. So and maybe you're right. Maybe an opening gig in a stadium, or not a stadium, but in an arena, like opening for Disturbed is going to be. In a 20,000 seat arena, maybe that's not going to feel the same, but at least I'll know if the production stuff is all in there. But Disturbed puts out a lot of production on their live show too. So I'm worried that it's going to be there because I told you guys, I think I mentioned it during the Disturbed podcast, that a buddy of mine and I were at one of the Mayhem Fest or one of those where Disturbed was headlining it, or it was Korn open for them, I think. And we're sitting there and like there's crowd noise, like people are cheering and we're looking around and like it's in between bands and like nothing's going on here. And then the crowd noise starts to go up louder and we're still looking around and nobody's cheering. And out comes Disturbed. And that crowd noise never really went anywhere. And all that does is
Yeah.
make you think, all right, how much of this that I'm watching is really live if they're pumping in crowd noise?
Yeah.
So I didn't like that at all. So I love Disturbed too, and I did not like that. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping to not hear that this time. That would be great. Please let's not do that. So I'm a little worried about the level of production they're going to have. I just hope that it's not all in there because I want to hear these guys for what they are. I don't know how many times I keep saying that. I got to stop, but they're a good band, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it shows on the first couple albums, especially the second one. There's not all this overproduction in there, and it
Yeah.
sounds fantastic. So,
Yeah. Well,
I did not like. I'm sorry. Did you rank this one?
no,
Okay.
I just wanted to make the point. I agree with you on the size, because even seeing them at the festival, where they lay at in the day, just kind of still tells me they're still playing it, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon on these festivals. So
Yeah,
they're playing main stage, but yeah, I mean that's where they're at.
6
But,
songs,
yeah,
40 minutes. Yeah.
yep, exactly. So yeah, I had this as my second favorite.
Okay.
I again, there's a big gap between 1 and 2 for me, but
Yeah.
but this one just really caught my ear right away. I think it's really, really heavy, and I really just, the thing I love most about this band is the riffs, and I like they're simple and they're good to me, and I love the vocals, especially on the choruses. He's got these big, huge choruses. I think they land pretty well. I find all of these songs stuck in my head quite a bit. So yeah, this is 2 for me, probably a B. Nothing touches that first record, but this to me is the closest they've come to it. What did you think of Carnal?
I had the first thing I put in here is that I noticed in listening to the first, and it's probably not the whole album, but maybe the first, maybe a group of songs together is every song a hard rock love/loneliness song, because that's what it seemed like there for a minute.
Yeah.
And I also said that I bet this band probably has as many female fans as Hailstorm does, because
It does. Yeah. I'm
it's
sure.
just the songs, the subject matter, the emotion of the way he sings, obviously the way he looks,
The lack of clothing.
the lack of clothing, like obviously all those things are going to attract women too. So I was just like, I bet these guys have a really big female following, and there's nothing wrong with that. I love Hailstorm too. It's not a bad thing. It's just,
Right.
it's just an observation, not having seen them live. I bet there's a lot of women there.
Yep.
But to me, it's not quite as overproduced. I just didn't feel the songs as much on this one. And I don't know if maybe I just haven't had as much time with this one, because I've listened to all these like kind of when they came out to see if it's again like the self-titled second album, because I'm waiting for that, But again, I was kind of disappointed. I'm like, again, it's just not here. And these songs, like even with the choruses, like they're just not catchy enough for me. But I also haven't listened to this album as many times as you have.
Right.
So, like you mentioned, being on the river, listening to it a bunch of times in one day. I haven't listened to it 4 or 5 times total, and you did that all in one day. So,
and I heard 75% of it live too.
Yeah. When they play 6 songs off of this live, so they play a bunch of this live. So, I might have to change my mind. Now, I didn't hate it. I have it as a C plus, but I have this at 4 because I just like, again, there's more songs that catch me on Stories We Tell Ourselves.
Yep.
Because I feel like maybe they're a little bit left over even from the self-titled one, like where it's still, there's not a lot of overproduction, and I like those song structures better. They're more catchy to me than these ones are. But I do agree with you that this one is better than Spirits and does have some more of that back in there again. So that's why there's hope that they could put out another album like the self-titled one.
Yep.
As a next album, say, hopefully not in 5 or 6 years, but there's just not a whole lot on here I loved. I liked If It Doesn't Hurt. I knew that was the big hit, right?
Yep.
I think that was that's one of the more popular ones that played on Spotify. I guess I like Free Fall, but even that one is kind of but it's somewhat catchy. And I like Down the River a lot. Down the River finally has less production. I even wrote thank you with 3 exclamation points. Like, thank you, finally. Here's a stripped down song, which is just them, and it sounds great. And I like that song a lot too. That's a good song. I didn't like House of Sand. It's kind of all over the place. There's a lot of electronic stuff in there. There's a lot of distorting of vocals and other things in there that it's just over the top for me. And I didn't like Existential Dread. It was kind of a subject matter thing with that one.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't really think the song was great either, but I don't know, something about that song just bugged me. But those are only two like skippers. So I have this is kind of a solid album for me. Again, this band, it sounds like they keep cranking out kind of the same stuff, at least on the last 2.5 albums. This one, Spirits, and some of the stories we tell ourselves. There's a lot of the same kind of sounding stuff in there, and they do have their own sound, which is good because fans know what to expect. You know,
Right.
if they like the all that production in there and they think that sounds good, then they're going to get more of that because they keep putting out like the songs. The they're not the same. I'm not going to say they're the same, but they have like the same subject matter, and they're
Mhm.
kind of they're accessible, you know. So if you like what they do, you're going to like all these songs too. They're not disappointing their fans for any reason. So, but for me, I just want it back to where it was earlier. You know, some
Sure.
bands they kind of get better. I feel like these guys have kind of found this spot where they're just kind of cruising along, you know. They're popular, they're making money, they're putting out stuff people like, but it's not going to grow until they put out something greater. This is just kind of a spot that they're in. They're just like in a plateau, I think, for them.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
for me, it's just not as appealing for me as it is for you. Everybody likes a little different stuff, but so they do have their own sound, but it is kind of similar to some contemporary hard rock bands, like I mentioned before, like I Prevail, Crown the Empire, Falling in Reverse. Like they have kind of the same sound, that the big production. And Falling in Reverse, I think, is famous for, weren't they the ones that lost their laptops and like canceled the
Yes.
show because they didn't have all their production on their laptops? Like they couldn't just go up and play the songs.
Right.
Like, no, we're gonna play them through the laptops. Like, really? Like, I know everybody was making fun of them for that, but that's the kind of thing that I worry about. Like, you don't need all that stuff, you know.
Right. Yep.
So, but these guys also being around for 15 years now, even though they don't have that many albums, they're possibly a big influence on some of these newer bands that sound like that too. So I can totally see that too. So them sounding the same and doing what they do isn't a bad thing. It's just not my favorite thing. I liked it when it was more stripped down. So,
Right.
but it's all fine. It's just not a whole lot here that excites me. So I have this as a C plus. I have this as number 4. Like I said, I like, and it's close to the stories we tell ourselves. There's just songs I like on that one I like more than the ones that I like on this one. So, but that's really it for me on this one. I did think I thought, cool, a Dave Draymond song, and I don't think I ever even knew he was on that song.
Okay.
I'm like, oh, cool, a Dave Draymond song. Surely I'll like that one. And then
You don't like it? No,
I didn't care for it that much. Like, there's not enough hook in there for me. Like, it's not as memorable. Like, I listened to it twice too, and that was the last song I listened to, and it doesn't stick in my head. Like, I couldn't hum it right now if I wanted to.
Really?
There's nothing in there that really grabs me, which is weird because I like Dave Draymond a lot. So
Yeah, I think that's another one that I don't think that one stood out to me the first few times I heard the album, but I heard it live, and now
Okay.
that riff, that I love that riff. It's simple, but which I think they do really well. I think the band, like the guitarist, is good. I wouldn't say he's not good, but very simple. Everything is very simplified with the riffs, and I mean that song is just da 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 da. That's all it is. That's basically what it is. The whole song, but
yeah,
it sticks with me. It's okay. So
it's in there. I kind of feel like it still gets buried a little bit,
Yeah.
but it's definitely in there. You know, they have that, but then they have this other sound going did it, and then this other sound on top of that going did it, and another sound on top of that. It's
Yeah.
just layer, like, okay.
yeah,
But it's like I said, it's definitely this is a little bit better for me, you know,
Yeah.
from the last album. So,
but not
for
quite
me,
there yet. Yeah,
not
I
quite
hear
there
you.
yet.
All right, what do you got? 1 to 5.
All right, 1 to 5. Nothing More, self-titled album. The second one, not even close.
Right.
Um, I have Stories We Tell Ourselves. Second, I didn't punish him too much for those weird tracks in there. I just liked more of those songs than I did on the first one, but it's close for me too. So I have the first album, Few Not Fleeting, is number 3. Stories We Tell Ourselves, like I said, like number 2, and then Carnal I have 4, and then Spirits is kind of the bottom of the barrel for me, just because there's just so much production on that one. There's so much going on, and the songs just can't shine through that for me. Like they can a little bit on After and Before, but not on that one.
Right.
What did you have?
All right. I had the same first one. I think that's their, as of now, that's their album.
As of now.
It did the best, front to back. They really captured everything there. So that's number one. Number two for me was the new album Carnal. Really moved its way up the last couple months. Number three was The Stories We Tell Ourselves. Number four, I had Spirits, and number five, I had The Few Not Fleeting as my least favorite. Pretty good stuff. I'm interested. Again, we'll have to talk about what you thought of the concert.
Yes,
once you see
March
them live.
31st. So we got a little ways to go, but
yeah.
Yep, we'll be there.
So next week we have Ozzy Osbourne. It looks like.
Nice. Kelly also mentioned another one too, but they're more of a contemporary band to them that they sound like, and that's Black Veil Brides. But she kind of nailed that one too because they do sound a lot like Black Veil Brides. She's like, these guys sound like somebody else. So I was making her listen to we're listening to Carnal today a little bit, and the second, and
I could
self-titled, and I was like, like that's pretty good. I forgot to throw them in there too.
Well, at first, when I think Black Veil Brides, I think of like old Black Veil Brides. They were a little more punky when they came out.
No, kind of how they are
recent
now.
stuff. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, absolutely.
Super overproduced, polished stuff, but there's definitely some good stuff in there too, and I don't think they sound too dissimilar. So
right, I can hear it.
Yeah.
So all right, partner. Well, thanks, and like I said, we'll see Ozzy next week. So.
Ozzy, man, that's gonna be a big one. How many albums does he have?
I believe it's 13. I think.
Yeah.
So this might be another longer episode next week.
Yeah, a lot to cover there too.
Yeah,
lots of stories, lots of guitar players, lots of crazy stories about Ozzy. I mean, oh my god, like that's where the crazy stories begin is when he went solo, right?
I know.
Like, we could just tell crazy Ozzy stories and not even cover the albums in a whole podcast.
Yep,
because there's a million of those.
Yeah, should be.
They still tell them on Octane and Hair Nation. Like you'll still hear guys from bands like Guys and Rat tell you stories of stuff that Ozzy did in hotel rooms. Like they still talk about it. It's crazy. Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yep,
this was fun too. So it was good to go through this for me. Like it's not something I listen to a whole lot. So it's good to revisit the entirety of what they do.
Yeah. Absolutely, especially since they're still kind of doing it, and you're seeing seeing them coming up, and I just saw them, so it's good to kind of touch on them now. So
for sure.
All right, very good, partner. Well, we'll see you next week for Ozzy Osbourne. Thank you, everybody, for listening, for watching. Make sure you like if you can. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you, as always. Otherwise, we will see you in the next one.
I tell you to go vote, but it's too late now. Rock on.
Rock on.
Looks like you've been missing a lot of work lately.
I wouldn't say I've been missing it, Bob.
What would you say you do here?
God damn it. Bob, we love playing here tonight. My brother's ready.
It helps if you think of it as a game, Bob. Every game has a winner. A loser.
You must possess strength to inflict pain, Bob.